Hello, hi everyone. Thank you so much for taking the time to join this webinar. This is a webinar that's been organized by the Microinsurance Network Gender and Inclusive Working Group in collaboration with Women World Banking. And our goal this afternoon is to just discuss how we can better design products that are targeted and tailored for the different segments that exist within women. Women often remain underserved and underprotected, and the gender protection gap is still there. And so how then do we as an ecosystem, as an industry, better design products? How do we better understand the needs and the risks that women face? And how can we collaboratively work together to ensure that we are designing products that are tailored for their way of life, for the risks that they face, and work towards closing the gender protection gap? This year, the Microinsurance Network Gender Working Group has been focusing on how to design and to understand what are some of the best practices that we can leverage on to design viable and inclusive insurance solutions for women. And this webinar is a culmination of all the work that we've done throughout the year, which will be talked about in a few minutes. But to kick us off, I'd like to, first of all, give some rules of engagement. So this webinar will last for 90 minutes, and we shall have a Q&A session after the discussion. So feel free to post any questions you may have in the chat box, and remember to specify if you want a specific panelist to respond to your question. Simultaneous translation is being offered in French and Spanish. So if you'd like to listen in French and or Spanish, please click on the interpretation icon and choose the channel that works best for you. And finally, in case you have any challenges, please, you can send a message to the MEAN account, the Microinsurance Network account, and someone will be able to assist and support. So to kick us off, I'd like to invite our Executive Director, Matthew Genazzini, to give his opening remarks. And thereafter, we'll get right into the discussion, hopefully that you'll all get to learn along and engage. Feel free to post your questions in case you do have any questions, and the panelists will respond afterwards. Over to you, Matthew.
Thank you, Karimi, for those opening remarks, and apologies for the late start. I was running to this meeting, so excuse me if I'm a little bit out of breath. But good morning, good afternoon, welcome everyone. I'm delighted to open today's webinar, Best Practice for Viable and Inclusive Insurance Solutions for Women. And with us today, we've got some really exceptional speakers. At the Microinsurance Network, it's our role to provide a platform for rigorous dialogue across different sectors, so that the solutions we discuss and promote are not only innovative, but they're also viable and scalable. And gender is central to this mission. And I don't need to remind you that around the world, women remain disproportionately excluded from formal risk mitigation tools, despite often bearing the greatest financial and caregiving vulnerabilities. So for the network, this isn't a niche issue. It is systemic challenge that affects market development, it affects household resilience, and the overall impact of inclusive insurance. When women are not effectively reached, the sector fails its promise. So today's conversation is not only just timely, it's also essential to the integrity and effectiveness of our work. And I'd like to take a moment just to recognise Women's World Banking here, because they've been an exceptional partner to the network, bringing deep expertise, research and commitment in advancing this gender inclusive insurance. And their leadership in chairing the best practice group has really helped push this agenda from aspirational to actionable practice. And we're really pleased to continue this collaboration with Women's World Banking. So thanks for joining us today. I'm looking forward to the discussions that we're going to be having, and I will pass you over to Pallavi, who will kick things off. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Matthew, and welcome everyone again. I'm just going to share my screen. Give me a second. Okay. Perfect. Okay, so welcome everyone again to the webinar on best practices for viable and inclusive insurance solutions for women. I am Pallavi Madhok and I work with Women's World Banking. It's a pleasure to be co-chairing this best practice group along with the Microinsurance Network. At Women's World Banking, we work to serve over 700 million women who are currently excluded from the formal financial sector. Through our work and advocacy globally, we address systemic barriers and market failures to unlock business opportunity and growth opportunities for all. As an NGO, we partner and advise financial institutions and policymakers to develop systemic change for women. We do this with over 250 institutions today, policymakers, regulators, and financial service providers. And today we're serving over 91 million women. I'm delighted to be part of the Gender and Inclusive Insurance Best Practice Group. And we've partnered with some leading organizations who are committed to women's financial inclusion and resilience. These organizations who are part of the group are insurance companies, distributors, development organizations, and reinsurance companies from Africa, Asia, and Latin America. And a big thank you and a call out to all of them. Together, as a group, we want to facilitate knowledge exchange, promote and share good practices, and inform policy and advocacy and drive innovation. We believe that the women's insurance market opportunity is huge. Specifically, it's USD $1,450 billion large, an opportunity. So how do we tap into this opportunity? We identified 4 enablers that can help us tap it. And I'm just going to speak a little bit on each of these enablers. And this would you would hear a lot of these enablers coming in through the rest of the conversation today. Enabler number 1, digital technology and channels. It's a fact that women's adoption of smartphones has increased rapidly. This now enables insurance providers to develop small ticket insurance policies that can reach women at scale through digital platforms. Enabler number 2, the rise of women account holders. There has been a transformational increase in ownership of bank accounts globally. This number has increased from 47% in 2011 to 77% in 2024. What this now means is that insurance providers and distributors can bundle insurance solutions along with other banking products at scale and in an affordable manner. Enabler number 3, regulatory push. Regulators and reinsurers are increasingly embedding gender KPIs and incentives in their ecosystems. Data, especially gender disaggregated data, is being captured and shared, and this helps in product development and innovation. And finally, but not the least, community-led awareness. Community initiatives are critical because most of them are led and include women. Women trust local influencers and they trust them to share information that is both safe and that is relevant to them. So as a group, we discussed all of these 4 enablers and we spoke about some examples that I'm very happy to share with you. Let me take you through some examples. People's Mutual, based out of India, developed a high-trust community-based business model wherein the federations, and in fact 190 federations, decided the premiums, collected the premiums, managed the claims, and the risk governance. It's all handled by them. And as a result, they have enrolled 742,000 women under life insurance, 479,000 with health insurance, and over 500,000 under pension insurance. In Medical was another very interesting example, which promises comprehensive coverage and is distributed by the community. And when I mean comprehensive, it is no exclusions and no copay, and it's distributed directly by community members. Another very interesting example we studied was that of EasyPaisa in Pakistan. And this is a really innovative digital platform model, which is experience-based subscription. So what EasyPay did was that they took the free look period as a hook for customers to enroll before they actually pay under the try and pay tagline. And they also developed a wallet that would debit the premium on a monthly basis. And women just needed a one tap to unsubscribe. As a result, they have enrolled 650,000 women under health insurance in just a single year. And of that, 410,000 of these policies are active. Another wonderful example is from APA Insurance, Kenya. They followed a segment-based marketing approach. So what they did is they first identified 3 separate segments within the women's market, and then they developed bundled solutions for each of these segments. As a result of this approach, there was a 10% increase in new policies sold to women and a 64% increase in premiums collected in the period 2021 and 2024. And the final example I wanted to share with you is that of ZEPRI, and this example will be spoken about in our webinar also today, wherein ZEPRI launched a Sharia-compliant Takaful product, specifically under the DRIVE project. It was an index-based livestock insurance solution. They also launched a Pan-African risk-sharing facility to support insurers to design and price women-focused covers. They've already covered 473,000 women with insurance policies, and this number is growing. But today's conversation is about taking these pilots and these success stories ahead. And the question that we are looking for a panel to answer is, how can we move these innovations to ecosystem-wide transformations such that we reach women at scale? And I have a stellar panel here to talk about this. And without further ado, I'm going to jump straight in and introduce the panel members. First, I'd love to introduce Dr. Major Mukund Kulkarni. Dr. Kulkarni is currently serving as the Chief Business Officer, Life and Health Insurance at the Insurance Information Bureau of India, which is appointed by IRDA to be the nodal data and information platform for the needs of insurance industry in India. Dr. Kulkarni is a distinguished insurance medicine expert with over 27 years of experience across diverse industries, including insurance, consulting, corporate wellness, occupational health, and clinical setups. His career is marked by innovative contributions that bridge the medical expertise with business value, significantly impacting the insurance sector. At IIB, Dr. Kulkarni is at the forefront of leveraging vast insurance data to create valuable data products and insights. His work supports the insurance industry in managing business expansion and risk management initiatives. Under his leadership, IIB is driving transformative initiatives to enhance health insurance reach and quality across India. Dr. Kulkarni's previous roles include the head of underwriting at Aegon Life and strategic advisory positions at ICICI Lombard and Reliance Industry. Welcome, Dr. Kulkarni. I'd next like to welcome Ms. Rhoda Rubeza. Rhoda is the project lead of the DRIVE project at ZEPRI. Rhoda is a veterinarian and a development practitioner with 2 decades of experience in agricultural development and disaster risk financing. Prior to joining ZEPRI, she worked with the World Bank and the World Food Programme in various capacities. At ZEPRI, Rhoda leads the DRIVE project, which I spoke about. This innovative initiative aims to strengthen the resilience of pastoralists, farmers across the Horn of Africa through market-based livestock insurance and financial inclusion mechanisms. Under her leadership, the project continues to scale up impact, building stronger partnerships and advancing inclusive risk financing solutions for communities vulnerable to climate shocks. Thank you, Rhoda, for joining us, and welcome. Next, I'd like to welcome Chilima Lisa Maru. She is the head of innovation and sustainability at Britam Microinsurance, one of Africa's leading inclusive insurance providers. Lisa is an actuary by training and amongst the youngest senior managers at Britam. She has pioneered insurance solutions that blend profitability with purpose. Her leadership has driven inclusive insurance programs across health, climate, and gender, reaching, and you can hold your breath, 5 million customers and positioning Britam as a continental leader in impact partnerships. A passionate advocate for financial resilience, Lisa designs market systems that protect Africa's most vulnerable from life shocks such as illness, drought, and income loss. She mentors young professionals across Africa and serves on the national committees shaping Kenya's microinsurance ecosystem. Globally recognized as a thought leader in inclusive insurance, she is redefining how financial protection contributes to development by empowering women, strengthening communities, and driving climate resilience. Welcome, Lisa. And finally, Susanna de Souza. Susanna is the program policy consultant with the World Food Programme's Global Disaster Risk Financing team. In her role, she leads evidence generation and coordinates knowledge management across DRF initiatives, ensuring that insights and learning inform strategic decision-making and program improvement. Susanna has contributed to the design and implementation of inclusive risk financing programs, formerly known as the R4 Rural Resilience Initiative, which I think many of us are inspired by, at least I am. This initiative enhances the resilience of smallholder farmers, pastoralists, and small and medium enterprises against climate shocks. With a strong commitment to equity and inclusion, she advocates for the integration of gender-responsive and socially inclusive approaches throughout program design and implementation, operational guidance and monitoring, evaluation, and learning frameworks. So we have a fantastic panel. And without further ado, I'm going to jump straight into the conversation and stop sharing my screen so that you can see all the 4 panelists. Could we please have all of them on screen? Could we have all the 4 panelists on screen? Can we all see them? Are they there? Okay, lovely. Thank you. Okay, lovely. So with that, my first question is to you, Lisa. So does your organization view women as a distinct market segment? Because a lot of people say that, but I'm not really sure. I mean, does the women's market segment make business sense for insurers like you, Lisa? I'm not sure if everyone can hear Lisa.
No, I cannot hear her from my end.
Sorry, Lisa, could you just try again?
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you now.
Sorry about that. So to answer your first question, I think initially, no. I think the biggest assumptions we made as insurers, and specifically Britam, is that any insurance product would work for both men and women. And just to give you more context, Britam is a financial services group. We are present in East and Southern Africa across 7 countries. And Britam Microinsurance particularly started in 2007, focusing on, of course, low to middle income households. This evolved to get to 5 million customers. But I think 2 years ago, when we were trying to look at our coverage rates, we were seeing that there was a mix of both men and women when we were looking at the insured populations as a total number. But then when we went specifically to look at how many women took up, or rather were buying the insurance products, we found that only 17% of the policyholders were women, which is low, like especially in a market where you find that the financial access, banking access is pretty much distributed across both men and women. So it already showed that there was a challenge. That's when Britam decided to be very keen and intentional on developing a product or programs that would specifically focus on getting more women's policyholders. Of course, this needed a lot of product development as well as human-centered design. We went into the to try and discover what risks women faced that was different from the segment we currently faced. We currently covered, as well as what products would like, because sometimes we assume that everyone wants a health product, but is there a specific kind of product? And yes, we did see that these are very distinct markets with its with its business case. Yeah.
And does it make business sense, Lisa? Now that you've
Yes.
been doing it for a couple of years.
So just to give you more context on the kind of solutions we created.
Yes.
So we saw that the biggest market need was on two things. So the first thing was on maternal health care. When we did a deep dive in our health insurance book, we found that the women in our book were not attending the right number of antenatal screenings. They were not attending any care from the providers, especially prenatal care. And this led to very high costs post-delivery or during delivery. So there would be complications and all that. Of course, they were also using other insurance covers, whether it was the National Health Insurance Fund, to be able to fund their programs because they felt that the insurance did not meet their needs.
Mhm.
So we went ahead to develop a maternal program called Britam Lea Mama, which means really nurture the mom. And this program focused on providing the right education to the moms. So this is like a two-way AI-powered platform where the mom can respond, but at the same time, they receive daily SMSs.
Mhm.
It came with extra maternal care benefits. So that meant that moms could have more ultrasounds, they could have more access to service providers when it came to prenatal care. And most so, I think, also on mental support, where we don't often talk about, is just how much mental health support women need during this period, post and prenatal, as well as having like care packages. So what was very interesting is that we built in a behavioral program where we would almost like give rewards to the mom for getting the right number of antenatal care. So it's made them, feel like this was a very nice interactive program. And also finally, our WhatsApp community. What happens is women like sharing their stories. So this community brought the women together. They could share what challenges they're going through, and really it's going beyond what you offer as an insurer. And this led to an uptake of 3,500 customers just on this program who are onboarded into the health insurance program that we had, a market that didn't exist within the Britam ecosystem. The second program we did was focused on protection, and this particularly is on protection during critical illness. So one of the challenges we see at Kenyan market, a very high incidence of non-communicable diseases, and particularly for women, ovarian cancer, breast cancer, cervical cancer is that unspoken, I would say, sickness. People don't like talking about it, but then it exists. People are quiet about it. And we figured that out through speaking to the women, that those are the challenges they're experiencing. You'd find they didn't have the right amount of support during these periods of sickness. And also they were worried that they would get that disease and they wouldn't be able to pay or earn an income from it. So we created like a very customized critical illness, particularly for women, which I think just in the last year of selling, we've been able to get 5,000 customers. So when you speak about businesses, we have seen that it's opening up new markets that Britam didn't exist in before. It's making our products more relatable to our customers.
Yeah, these are wonderful examples. And before I move on, is there anything that also did not work from a product perspective that you tried and you felt did not work?
That's a very interesting thing. I think one of the assumptions is always thinking that you can, in the traditional microinsurance solutions, is that you can just create a maternal health care package, which is like a lump sum cash to the mothers, and that they'll be able to benefit from it. One of the things we saw is that they need the money before they go to the hospitals and not afterwards. So one of the failures we had in the programs we conducted is where we created the product and we were asking the women that, okay, first you need to seek this before we can pay you. But really the main challenges that women see is that they don't have that money to even go to the hospital. So you'll find some women will just deliver at home because they didn't have that lump sum cash to go to the hospital, which in the end really beats the point of having this product for them. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for that insight. And okay, so I actually now want to move on to you, Rhoda. Zooming back from where you stand, because you have a pan-regional view, what are the key risks that women face? And what is the role of reinsurers like ZEPRI in fostering product innovation? A lot of what Lisa spoke about was product innovation, creating new products, new markets, literally. So what's the role of organizations like ZEPRI in fostering this product innovation for more inclusive insurance products and systems?
Thank you very much. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Great. Thank you very much, Pallavi, for having us and the Microinsurance Network as well for hosting this webinar. From ZEPRI's perspective, and if I may share my screen, just a couple of slides to underline a few key messages I'd like to share. So first, if I may, I wanted to just describe what ZEPRI and the DRIVE program is like, and then maybe we'll go quickly into the questions that you've asked. So DRIVE is the de-risking, inclusion and value enhancement of pastoral economies in the Horn of Africa project. It's a mouthful, so DRIVE makes it nice and easy acronym that one can remember and use. It's a World Bank financed. It's a World Bank financed project operating in 4 countries. You'll see the flags at the bottom of the slide. There's Kenya, there's Somalia, there's Ethiopia, and there is Djibouti. And then just to also talk a little about ZEPRI. ZEPRI is an institution of COMESA. COMESA is the Common Markets for Eastern and Southern Africa. It is a regional economic institution. It's a REC. And our mission basically has a duality to it. Part of it is we are to promote economic development, which is what COMESA is about, by providing reinsurance solutions that are innovative, that are sustainable. But on the other hand, we have the development mandate, so to speak, which is to close the protection gap to ensure that there is insurance penetration within our part of the world to increase that insurance penetration. So DRIVE has 2 components, and it is we as ZEPRI are responsible for the first component under DRIVE, which is delivering a package of financial services for climate resilience. And as you heard from the introduction, it is specifically to improve access to financial services for pastoralists. So that is our core market, so to speak, for this project. Now, our role is, yes, we are in charge of project management, especially for the first component, but we also do a little on, we do not just a little, we do product design. So to answer the second part of your question, Pallavi, we are responsible for product design. So we have an index-based livestock insurance product that we have developed. In addition to insurance, there's also a savings part of the financial package that we also have to ensure is delivered to the pastoralists. We are also responsible for capacity building and financial awareness to ensure that the pastoralists, not just the pastoralists, but other stakeholders that would participate in ensuring that these services, that this financial package reaches the pastoralists as well, need to understand what their contribution will be. So that is part of what we do. But the other part is financial literacy, ensuring that pastoralists are able to, for example, open up bank accounts, digital bank accounts, they're able to have access to insurance product, making it relatively easier for them to be able to purchase insurance, making those products relevant to them as well. And also for them to understand there are communities where this is the first interaction or understanding they have had of insurance through this project. So it's a critical part of what we do. The other part of it is distribution. Now, pastoralists, as many of you are mostly in remote areas. And so it's not always easy to be able to reach them. And I think that's probably one of the key reasons why access has been an issue for them with regard to financial services, not just insurance, but other financial services as well. So one of the things that we're trying to do is we have developed a digital inclusion platform that we are leveraging in addition with the agents that we work with and other partners to ensure that there's distribution right to the last mile. So that makes Drive an interesting part of ZEPRI, because for the most part, ZEPRI works as a reinsurer. It's a B2B kind of relationship. But in this part of it, we are trying to reach that other part of our mandate where we are increasing penetration. And I'll share some numbers on how far we've been able to go. The other bit of it is country and stakeholder engagement. I touched on it on capacity building, but essentially it takes a lot of partnerships to be able to deliver to the last mile. It's not something that a single institution can be able to do. So it requires us to work with government, with development partners, and I'm glad to see that two of the institutions that we're partnering with, the World Food Programme as well as BRITAM, are represented on this panel. So we have an ecosystem, I would say, that we have built of partners that we're working with. The other bit of it is that as a project that is financed by public financing, of course, we have to ensure that financial management, environmental and social standards, procurement, etc., that those are quite strong to be able to reassure the governments, the public that we're working with, that we are using the resources that they've given us to manage efficiently. And of course, monitoring and evaluation simply to ensure that we are tracking key numbers and information. Now, I just wanted to share some of the results of the work that we have done over the last 3 years. So a quick update to the numbers you shared, Pallavi, earlier. Apologies, I think there was something lost there in our communication. But as of the end of June, and we are in a new season, so we have some new numbers, but we're still validating that data. So we'll share last season's data. As of the end of last season, which is the March, April and May season of 2025, we had achieved 572,000 policies. Now, 55% of those are women. And that is something that we are extremely proud of. Similarly, for digital accounts, it's still majority women. So when you see these numbers, the premiums that have been collected, the private capital that has been mobilized, it shows the potential of reaching people that have been previously excluded from financial services, from access to the kinds of products that you and I take for granted, and what it can do for them, as well as for the private sector players that engage with them. Just maybe a quick to respond to the first question you asked about the key risks that the women in our region face. Drought is a major risk, and that is the focus of DRIVE, managing drought risk. We've in surveys within the region by most of the FinDex, by the financial sector, deepening programs, etc. Drought has always come out as the major risk that not just women, but people within the population face within the Horn of Africa, to the tune of about, it's estimated to be about 65% of them. And the other major risk is floods. And then so with regard to climatic risks, those would be the top two that are faced. The other type of risk I would say would be around health-related risks. And primarily those are, as in, yes, there's the fact that somebody is sick and needs access to health services. That is something a lot of insurers are already providing. Perhaps the other part that is not quite as much covered yet as a risk is regard to income replacement. So when somebody in the family falls sick within the household, that means a loss of labor, that means a loss of income. And I'm glad to say that we're partnering with Britam on a product, a life and health product, where in case a family member passes away or is hospitalized, they're able to get a payout that would assist the family to tide them over that season of discomfort. So those are the key ones that we have found. However, there are even more risks that pastoralists especially are facing, and women especially. As I said earlier, women are the majority of the people that we have been able to reach. And some of the other things that they are facing, I think it was ILRI that conducted a study as to what other major risks would they be interested in covering. And the three that were at the top were animal health. The others were regards to feeds for animals. And then lastly was breeding, and that in that order of priority, and that was in Kenya. I think I'll pass it on back to you, Pallavi.
Yeah, no, thank you. And I wanted to speak about this because I wanted to concretize some of the opportunities on that opportunity slide. It seems like a number on a graph, but when you actually speak to practitioners, there are real people with real needs, and there's a market out there. And if I hear both you and Lisa, if you design for them and you solve for them, they are enrolling into policies. So it's just not a number on a slide. So thank you for bringing that out, Rhoda. I actually now wanted to move to you, Susanna, because products exist, risks exist, even the customers are there. So how do you manage large scale programs where you join these pieces together, right? The customer, her needs, and of course, reaching her. So beyond product innovations, what needs to be done to actually reach her and serve more women sustainably and take all these products to scale?
Thanks, Pallavi. It's really great to be part of this discussion. Hope you can hear me well.
Yes, we can.
Perfect. Thanks. Let me just give a quick background about WFP. So we have two key mandates, saving lives and changing lives, as you can see in my background as well. So as the largest humanitarian organization, we respond to emergencies to save lives, but equally important, we work with communities to strengthen their resilience, help them to adapt to climate change, and really try to build resilient food systems. And for us, integrating inclusive risk balancing solutions such as insurance, savings, and loans is really key to fulfilling this mandate. And we always implement these programs in an integrated manner. So integration for us is really key. And integrating gender consideration into all this is essential for us because we want the women that access these tools, not only access them, but they're really empowered to use them effectively, right? To really improve their lives and food security, which is ultimately the key goal of WFP. And so after more than a decade of implementing inclusive risk balancing solutions, we really learned that gender responsive programming for us is really key. So if we want to really build lasting change, we need to systematically integrate gender consideration into our programming. And as you were mentioning, we have like big programs. Overall, last year, we reached more than 3 million beneficiaries, half of them were women. So integrating gender considerations into our programming is really key. And one of the steps that we have taken to more, let's say, rigorously or systematically integrate gender consideration was through the development of a gender and inclusive risk balancing checklist. And this tool is really helping country teams to think about more systematically, bringing together both the program team, but also their gender focal point in each country office, sitting down together to really, it's a simple tool, simple question, but really to think about, right, more systematically from the program design, inception, through development and the monitoring and evaluation phase, which is key. So the aim is really to think about gender more systematically and not something that is just an overall or afterthought, right? And I guess one of the key lessons for us is that really, as I was mentioning before, integration is key. So one single solution is not enough. Insurance alone doesn't work. So that's why we always stress the importance of bringing insurance as part of an integrated package combined with other financial tools, but also other supplementary and complementary components such as risk reduction, climate adaptive practices, access to market, which is really key. And also what we learned is that especially bringing the component on the savings and loan, it's really worked for us. For instance, in countries like Guatemala and Senegal, we really work together with the communities to build the savings and loans groups. And these groups have really been key for us, not only to, let's say, build awareness about insurance or financial literacy, or to improve their savings and investment capacities, but these groups have also been key as platforms to distribute insurance. So for instance, in Senegal, these savings and loans groups, which are mainly led by women, have been receiving a commission from the insurance companies to distribute insurance. And this has really been key to, first of all, have them gain some income as well for the sustainability of these savings groups, but also to promote insurance within their communities. And as a result, in only 4 years, the number of insurance participation has really grown exponentially from 7,000 to more than 50,000 participants. And half of these participants are already paying for insurance individually. And so these savings and loans groups have also helped to build the willingness and ability to pay for these services. So this has also been really key. And similarly in Guatemala, where indigenous women who do not have access to land and were, say, excluded from traditional crop insurance products, we have worked together with partners to develop a business interruption product that covers other protective activities that are being carried out by women, not only necessarily related to farming. So this has also been key. And again, this has been really boosting the insurance participation after 4 years, reaching 15,000 beneficiaries, 90% of them being women, and 74% of the women already contributing to the premium payment. So again, really building on the willingness and ability to pay for these services. Then I guess for us, another lesson that we learned is that really strategic partnerships is key, and especially public-private partnerships. I know we've heard already. And because ultimately we know that this solution don't work if all the actors that are involved in the picture are not committed 100% to make it work, right? So that's why we really want to work with the governments, we want to work with private sectors, but also with the communities to really help making this solution work sustainably and scalably. And so this is why also we stress the importance on integration with national systems. So for instance, in Ethiopia, we work with the government to integrate insurance into the government input voucher system. Again, this really supported the scale up of insurance participation from 20,000 beneficiaries to over 250,000 households in only 2 years. So really stressing the importance of linking these solutions to national system to really build scale in a sustainable way. And also interesting, this year in Guatemala, 3 municipalities have paid for them as contributed to insurance premium payment.
Lovely.
Which is really key to help institutionalize the premium payment and gradually ending over, right, this let's say subsidy support to the municipalities and to the local government. So this is really key. And I think for us also another lesson that it's really important for us is that this solution work if they're linked to local markets and local value chains. So we know that inclusive risk financing help to de-risk agriculture production and all the investments that are made, right? So we really want to support farmers to continue producing their food when there is a shock, so they are protected with insurance and other financial services, so they can continue to produce. But also the cooperatives, the aggregators can continue linking farmers to markets. Similarly, the buyers can continue to purchase food. And so we have stable supply chains, we have stable food systems. So this is key, and this is also why we've been working more and more on the integration of our inclusive risk financing programs with WFP's program, promoting access to markets, promoting the WFP homegrown school feeding program, which is really linking farmers to schools. And so what we want ultimately is that these farmers can continue to produce food for the schools, so the schools have a stable supply of food. And so we are really building that ecosystem. So I think in general, indeed, the role of organizations like WFP for us is really to build that ecosystem, right? Connecting, working as an enabler and really building evidence, which is really key for us. So we try to test this innovation, right? These pilots, eventually bringing them to scale. And what's key is really building evidence and strengthening partnerships. So I think those are key elements for us. And
thank you, Susanna. That was really useful, because what stood out is definitely the integration, embedding insurance in the larger ecosystem, and how you go about doing that through public-private partnerships and institutionalizing it in a way across at different levels. And so that's a great segue, Susanna, for me to move to Mukund, because Mukund, you're the regulator, and the role of the regulator is to develop enabling factors at an ecosystem level. And I'd love to understand what those enabling factors need to be. And maybe you can give us a more specific reference of India, because India has this grand, vision for insurance for all by 2047. And what does the regulator need to do to create an enabling factor for us to actually achieve this kind of a vision at scale? Mukund, over to you.
Thank you, Pallavi. I hope I'm audible.
Yes, you are.
Yeah, great. So I think I would like to spend some time. There are a couple of slides, if you can permit, I can just show the Indian scenario.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, just let me know if the slides are visible, please. Are the slides visible?
Yes, they are.
Okay, so I think representing IRDAI, which is Insurance Regulatory and Development Authority, there are two components. One, if you see, R is meant for obviously regulating, ensuring compliance of all the licensed stakeholders to behave in a particular way. And there's an R component, there's a D component, which says development. And that is where I would say that since last almost now a decade or so, IRDA has been very heavily active in ensuring enablement of the insurance sector here. And when it comes to specifically women, which is what is the discussion topic for the today, I would like to bring out some key strategic aspects of where we stand today as a country, and where do we want to go, and what are some of the things which all the stakeholders are doing, and at the back end, how regulator is empowering and also at the same time enabling interoperability between the ecosystems. So I think there are a lot of numbers which are clearly available, but just a key summary of how important women's contribution has been in India. I mean, having 48% of population, but if you really see the kind of participation rate being little low, and they also skewed more towards self-employed businesses and non-urban or rural kind of values which they bring in. But the inclusion part and of course the socioeconomic challenges are definitely high. What is more important as an Indian culture is we still have not kind of deviated so much from our original roots of being a nuclear family, where the woman is the fulcrum around which the entire family operates. And when I say operates, also kind of the way it behaves every day, or it also on a long-term basis grows or faces risk, or how do they really protect as a family. Now, it's very important to see that the fulcrum is protected, and which is where I guess the awareness from an ecosystem perspective is growing, and some of the measures coming on those lines as well. If you see the coverage, definitely not adequate. I would say in just one word, specifically, I think some of the risks which were mentioned by my fellow panelists also applies to India, and some of them specifically, I would again quote on the health risk side. There has been very high risk on some of the specific women-related diseases and impact that causes. But more important than the physical risk and the measurable risk, which typical insurance companies can measure, in India, there's a financial autonomy challenge as well. No matter we see literacy, education, awareness picking up, but still the decision-making abilities are still very much skewed towards the male members of the family in majority of our locations. That itself is a big, I would say, deciding factor. Even if we have all provisions, whether it converts into an effective protection mechanism is something which this determines a lot. And of course, there is no, I don't think so India is very different here, but of course the scale will be very different. The economic rate of the returns are going to be very high if you really, and that the reason I said is, again, the nuclearity of the family and the overall, I would say, impact a woman causes in her own nuclear family as well as relatives around. So this is a big, not only the same generation, but it's an intergenerational impact. We typically say that there's an impact on 3 generations, one before current and future generation. And so it's really important to see how do we. This awareness is now getting very high in terms of stakeholders who are trying to build products. For example, insurance has been a little scientific concept to look at. Anybody who doesn't have a very clear documentational evidences are generally ineligible. But I think that myth is getting broken now. Using data and technology, we are able to reach and assess those risks in kind of same traditional lens, but alternate data or alternate real world evidences, which helps us in coming up with good products. So this is something which we have seen in last almost 5 to 6 years. There has been a very increased innovation happening in alternate sources of data. Barriers, I think, are very high in terms of access, which is a generic barrier. But again, when it comes to women, it's even more. Even if the provider are able to reach, payers are able to reach the decision maker, then the penetration part, I think overall is still a very, I would say, second step access challenge, which still exists in India. Products also. Now, if you see the kind of variety of products in India, most of the products are designed from the perspective of return of investments and business metrics. But I think the social impact as an outcome metric is still, I would say, there's a lot of scope of improvement to happen here, specifically in the health side and the critical illness side, where most of the insurers shy away from these businesses. And I would like to say I had an experience of working with reinsurers as well. Even the reinsurers were shying away with a couple of socially impactful opportunities because the ROIs were not looking good on the balance sheet kind of stuff. So this is something which we need to really address as an ecosystem. One thing which is happening really good in India, and this again, credit goes to the regulator here, is pushing women-led distribution models. I'll talk about this as a little specific. I think you asked me about the question about insurance for all initiative by a regulator. So we'll speak a little bit about that. The other thing now here, if you see over last almost, I mean, the liberalization happened in 2000, and last 24 years, we've not been seeing much push to the insurance sector, specifically in women. So this time regulator thought, why not, build a very standard, uniform, scalable model of all three together, which is one is create a marketplace called Bima Sugam. Also build a product which is very, very simple, very easily underwritten, and very easily serviced as well, which is what we call as Bima Vistar. And it's a comprehensive product covering all major risks like life, health, property, and accidents. No frills in this, unlike the retail products kind of thing. And the third is the most important one is Bima Vahak. Vahak means distribution channel. And here is where that I would say our disruptive innovation is in place today, because this is completely led by women distribution. And again, it ties back to the concept that woman is the fulcrum around the family. If she's able to decide some things, I think the quality of decisions and the positive impact will be much, much long-term and better to the entire family. So this is an innovative thing which has started. It's growing well. Unfortunately, I don't have numbers right now, but the growth of Bima Vahak is very exponentially high, and we're still waiting for Bima Sugam to take structure once, and this was already announced 2 months back by the regulator. In another 6 to 7 months, we'll see this operational completely for all the products. So we are hopeful that next 1 year, we would see a lot of potential growth in IRD's vision for, this Bima Trinity. The last, of course, I would straight away jump to what IIB can do. Basically, is IIB, for people who do not know, is the only insurance repository which is owned by IRDA, and we capture data from all the insurance sectors today, all insurance companies, even the other regulated entities. Now, this gives us a lot of insights on what's happening. We have real-time dashboards. We have ability to deep dive as well as horizontally, expand our analytics to see if the trends are moving in which directions. Now, this is where we support. We support with a lot of gender disaggregated data analytics to the ecosystem. We also are now getting into interoperability platforms like National Health Claims Exchange, which means one-stop simple exchange process, which is very light on the front end, which means the claimant will not face much problems, and very heavy with all integrations at the back end kind of stuff. And of course, we are part of the regulator, so which we also mean we generate a lot of insights to ensure that there is no deviation in the form of fraud, waste, abuse, or there's no deviation from the insurance sector who are deviating towards more profitability or monopolization or any of those directions. And we don't lose touch of that social impact that industry needs to create. So this is, I guess, more or less I had to share from a little brief Indian context scenario.
Yeah, no, thank you for that. And frankly, I'd love, I don't know if we could see if all the panelists could put their videos on. I'm not sure if everyone can see them, but I've been taking notes through all the discussions, and it's been fantastic learning for me, and I hope it's been the same for the audience. I have one question for all panelists before I throw open the panel to get questions from the audience. What we didn't cover, Mukund, Lisa, Susanna, and Rhoda, is there is a need to make insurance products available at an affordable level to women at scale. But there's also a need to balance the viability for the insurer. And Mukund, I mean, you can take that first, because I guess this is something that you're struggling with on a daily level. Like, how do you balance? Are these two, can you balance the both? And I mean, this is a question for all panel members, those who are practically looking at their P&L and growing, and those who are looking from it from a distributor side, those who are looking from it from a reinsurer side. How do we balance these two as an ecosystem? Anyone who wants to go first on the panel?
Yeah, I think I can go first. Yeah, this is definitely, I would say, a very great point to find out what is the right balance. And I guess if you look at one end, the traditional way of doing insurance, which is typically the risk pooling and pricing. But the other end, what we really do not have, and I would say it's more of an information asymmetry, what are the supply sides? What is the distribution strength we have? How do we leverage data and also ecosystems at the peripheral side? And again, I will talk about Indian context. It's a large country. There are a lot of ecosystems which are working peripherally in a decentralized manner. I don't think so. As a insurance industry, we have done justice to tap those efficiencies of integrating with the smaller ecosystems. And let me tell you, one of the initiatives IIB wants to do is we have identified all the ecosystems with relevant and good quality data availability at all peripheral levels, and we are trying to integrate them. We're having discussions with all of the stakeholders to see if there is value coming up from all those perspectives, with keeping the policyholder as a central objective. And here policyholder, I would mean mainly women as well, because they become the primary targets for us, kind of thing. So that's one thing which we are doing as an effort to find out where's the balance. And second, I think is it's important for a bigger country to have a PPP model. You cannot really scale and you cannot really still stick to that balance point without having a public and private partnership at a contract level, at a service level kind of stuff. So this is something I believe the sensitization has to happen from both sides. There are still some political resistances. We see in many of the schemes which government has launched. For example, typically is a state schemes in India. Ownership is central, but the actual ownership on ground is still a state level. So you still see the bureaucracy, state versus center. I think if we are able to manage those gaps, that's definitely something which we can bring in a lot of efficiency. And third, and the most important, I would say, is leveraging technology. Today, India has been forefront in, for example, technologies like, digital payment systems today. Then the digital identity related technologies like Aadhaar, which is one of the biggest, I would say, biometric database available for the Indian population. I think if we can marry these things and leverage these technologies with the stakeholders, that should be the approach to identify the sweet spot.
Yep. Thank you, Mukund. That was fantastic. Susanna, Rhoda, Lisa, would you like to add anything, your views?
Yeah, if I may, I totally agree with concerning especially the distribution with regard to viability, that you have to be able to achieve scale to make it affordable and yet also keep the insurers interested. And the key to that is distribution methods that make sense. And one of the things that you can leverage is technology, as we have done in Drive with the digital inclusion platform. The other thing, and I touched on it during my presentation, is partnerships. No one person can be able to deliver these kinds of products and reach people that have been previously excluded on scale without partnering with the different people who are working with them. There is a dirty word in some circles, I'll call it, which is premium subsidies. And I will say here that for Drive to have been able to achieve the scale it has had, premium subsidies have contributed significantly to that. However, it is important, first at the design stage, but as well as the implementation, that you are working towards lower premium subsidies. So for example, in Drive, in the 3 years that we have been operating, we've managed to go from an average of 90% to 70% as we stand. And that we are working our way lower as we go along. So initially, to be able to bring in the people that need these kinds of products, it might require some level of subsidies initially, and that can be worked down. And then lastly, it's important that there's income sources, income generation for especially the women that we're trying to reach with these products, for them to be able to afford in the long term the products that we are designing, as well as for them to be able to cover risks that they are facing. So for example, in Drive, we work, while we are primarily responsible for component 1, which is a financial package, there's a component 2, which is about inclusion in livestock value chains, that is also about trade facilitation. So when they are able to participate in economic activities, it means the sustainability of these programs, the sustainability of the products that we're developing will be long-term, because there's something coming in that's able to pay off the products and the risks that they see. Back to you. Thank you.
Thank you. And I understand, I mean, we're running short of time, and I think I would love to extend this conversation by another half hour, but that's not possible. But there are a lot of questions in the chat, and my colleagues Jyotsna and Karimi are asking me to please open this up to the audience. Jyotsna, Karimi, is there a burning question, and who would you direct this burning question to in the panel? Would either of you please share that question?
Hi, Pallavi. So there are some questions which has come on Rhoda's way. Actually, a lot of questions, and she answered also some of them. The one which is open, I will speak about that. One is from Chanel M. She is asking, does ZEPRI have plans to extend its product offering beyond pastoralism to crop farming?
Can I answer that right away?
Go ahead, Rhoda. Yes.
Okay. So yes, ZEPRI already has some. First, it has been a reinsurer of crop products for a long time, but also we are working on similar innovations to drive. We have a program in Zambia, which is a grain for premium product. It's a pilot, it's still rather small. However, we believe that we'll be able to scale it up with time. Essentially, it covers maize producers, the maize crop, where farmers are able to use grain, their produce, to purchase insurance. And then we also have other products through one of our subsidiaries, ECA Africa, which has several crop products that have been developed. So yes, in short, sorry, thank you.
Thank you. Jyotsna, any other questions you'd like the panel to answer, please? I think there was a question that
there is one more question for Rhoda again. Does ZEPRI has a license as underwriter, insurer in Kenya? Because you're saying that 572K policies have been sold.
Right. So the way we work, let me perhaps share that slide very quickly, Pallavi, if I may, that will help demonstrate the partnerships that we have and to what level they are at. So yes, that's it. So if you can see this slide, so there are different levels of or types of partnerships that we have. But if you go to the 4th row, you'll see that they are insurers that we're working with. So we are, the risk is pooled across the countries. In each country, the insurers within that country participate, and these are some of the insurers that we are working with in Kenya, in Somalia, as well as in Ethiopia. I hope that answers the question.
Yes.
Thank you.
I think there are a couple of questions to Lisa, Jyotsna.
Yeah. There is one question from Sachin Agarwal, which is an open question. Impact products, especially for rural and women, have a product viability gap in the first 2-3 years. Is there any model that helps protect insurer balance sheet till such program or product stabilize? So this is an open question. Anybody can take it.
I could try to take it.
Yeah.
maybe. But from my experience, we tend to see that especially for rural type of programs, you'll tend to find the business case or the profit starts being made on the 3rd or 4th year. So this is where we put a lot on reinsurers to support the initial, the first at least 3-4 years. And the kind of models we always go for, like quota share arrangements, where you're participating in both the profit and the loss with the reinsurer. So it's getting like-minded reinsurers would be able to at least support you through this I would say value of death period.
Yeah. Your voice came in and out, but I think we got that. But if anyone has any follow-up questions, please feel free. Mukund, there's a question for you from Vineet Sidha. I don't know if you've managed to read that question on sandboxing.
No, I've not read.
Should I read it out? Okay.
Yeah, Betty.
Mukund, any sandboxing that you may be aware to bring in? Oops, the question went up. Oops, I just lost the question. Yeah. To bring in any guidelines, regulations that will be central to women-centric product development.
Yeah, good. Okay, so yeah, there are lots. In fact, one of the things which probably I did not mention much in the slides was, like I said, the D part of IRDA definitely encourages a lot of innovations in insurance sector. And for women-led distribution, when I mentioned Bima Vahak and the standard product, which is a part of the Trinity, actually is coming out from the sandbox. So that's something which is an evidence that we do have certain innovative methods which can be converted into a traditional offering. That's one. In addition to that, IRDA has been very open to open the sandboxes, and every quarter there's a review of new ideas which came in. And many of these ideas are revolving around coverages for women specifically, because we've realized that there are some additional health risk which needs to be addressed when it comes to women. So there have been very high, I would say, attention to that. And there have been certain relaxations provided in terms of, let's say, an actuarial pricing. I can talk about insurance cover for surrogacy was introduced, with the very first time in India 3 years back in the private sector. Then there are clear indications of covering mental health, which I guess is much more required today from an insurance coverage perspective. Long back, there was a complete, I would say, coverage for HIV, AIDS, and even transgenders kind of. So the IRDA is keeping a tab with the developments happening on the needs for insurance and allowing sandbox environment for insurers to come up with innovative methods of covering those risks. That's first part. And second is, I think there's a heavy emphasis on using data again, and that is where my organization comes in picture. Like IIB is creating a lot of specific bespoke reports to help the different insurance sector. And if you look at 58 different insurance companies operating in India, they are very different varieties when it comes to their individual strengths. At one end, we have PSU insurers, the other end are completely digital insurers without much physical presence. So IIB tends to give a complete support system to them to see where is it suiting their distribution channel. Can we help with data insights, which can help much more penetration in the insurance? And when we do that from a data-based approach through IIB, the insurance companies do get a sandbox advantage as far as regulatory approvals are concerned. So it's definitely, I would say, summarily, IRDA does promote a lot of innovation through sandbox environment, be it product, price, or distribution, all three together.
Thank you for that. And Jyotsna, if we don't have any more questions, I'm just asking you one last time because there are quite a few chats in the. Do we have an opportunity to take one last question, Jyotsna?
We have one question.
Please
Pallavi.
go ahead. Yes.
She's asking, how can my organization join Women's World Banking? We are WEF, Women Economic Empowerment Foundation, a non-profit supporting women in small business economic empowerment through training and access to capital. So it is, I don't think it is related to
No, not the webinar, but we'll
Yeah.
reach out to you, Catherine, after this.
Yeah.
Thank you for reaching out to us. Okay, so if there are no further questions, I then wanted to close this conversation on time. It's been a fantastic conversation. I'm just pulling out. Thank you, Jyotsna, for putting yourself in mute. I'm just calling out 4 areas, as actually the areas kept increasing as the conversations went, I must admit. So I started with 3, then it went to 4, then it went to 5. But at least I have 5 areas which I think are the key pathways for inclusive insurance at scale. The first one, which definitely stood out, was public-private partnerships. I think all our panelists mentioned that. I mean, there is no way we can scale without public-private partnerships. And we spoke about all kinds of partnerships, whether they're at a country level or, at an industry level or a government level or the private sector, of course, and even at community levels. But and embedding insurance in the national, within the national ecosystems for private players. I think that was one large key takeaway. The second key takeaway is, of course, embedding insurance in existing journeys. So it's never insurance alone. It's insurance with savings. It's insurance with education. It's insurance within an existing program that Susanna spoke about. And, how do you embed them? There's a ready checklist that World Food Program has on gender risk checklist on how you can embed gender and insurance within your existing program. So embedding was the second big takeaway, and not just going insurance alone. The third big takeaway was on community-driven models, because a lot of the conversations that drive and the success of Drive and the success, and I love that example, Susanna, that you gave about the communities now understanding insurance not only as a way of reaching women, but also as generating income. We have a very similar concept in India, cluster level federations with the groups, who can then distribute insurance and reach women and also generate their own income. It's such a viable and sustainable way to distribute within the community. Municipalities in Guatemala picking on insurance and linking insurance within the existing value chains of agri products. So that really was a wonderful takeaway. The other large one was on data and technology, and how alternate data can really make a big difference, Mukund, to not only innovate but to develop affordable ways of underwriting insurance products at scale. And then, of course, how technology via digital payments makes the insurance journey smoother for customers. We spoke a lot in the beginning about the customer experience in designing relevant products, but the product not just being a product, but also the customer experience and some of the reward points or the SMSs or the behavior change that you were referring to in the beginning of the conversation, Lisa. And finally, and thank you for being so honest, we spoke about premium subsidies and how premium subs, you need that in the beginning, but over time women can pay, and that percentage can reduce over time. And if we look at it in a 3 to 4 year horizon, I think it all starts making sense. All these 4-5 pieces come together. So, these were my 4-5 big takeaways from the conversation. I'd really like to thank everyone on this call. Thank you very much for joining us today. On behalf of the Microinsurance Network and Women's World Banking, we truly appreciate you taking time to be with us and for your active participation and questions. I hope we've answered almost all questions. Otherwise, please reach out to any of us. A special thank you to our speakers and panelists for sharing such valuable insights, and to everyone who helped put this webinar together. As a reminder, a recording of this session will be uploaded on the Microinsurance Network's YouTube page, so you'll be able to revisit this discussion and share it with your colleagues who couldn't join us live. We look forward to staying connected and hope to see you at all our future events. Thank you once again for being with us today, and have a wonderful day. Bye-bye.
Thank you, everybody. Thanks.
Thanks.
Thank you.